Welcome again to my channel. My name is Michel Bluteau and I work for RSA. Today what we're going to look at is another interesting integration use case, and actually it's one that is going to become more and more important in terms of security. The problem we're trying to solve is a problem that has been around since the creation of identity management. As soon as we start to deploy those connectors that can actually provision and deprovision accounts and access across several applications, we are exposing ourselves in a very specific way. The thing is, each of those connectors is using a service account. So if you have a connector for SAP, if you have a connector for Active Directory, if you have a connector for Oracle, that means in each of those applications or systems, you need to create a service account. You need to grant them privileges. So these accounts can be used by the connectors to create other accounts, new accounts, disable accounts. They can also be used to add those accounts to groups, application roles, to give them entitlements. So in short, the service accounts that you need to create, they are privileged accounts. And when it comes to privileged accounts, we have to, factor in the risk that's associated with these accounts. It's higher because, of course, they are privileged. And there are some best practices around what to do with those service accounts, those privileged accounts in your organization. And one best practice first is to not put them in text files or config files. Secondly, you don't want them to be in code, in Java code, in clear text, especially the passwords. And thirdly, those accounts should not reside in a database or in a location that's not completely secure. From a best practice perspective, this should be in what we call a password vault or a password safe. And this is what we see here on this diagram. So I have my identity management systems with a bunch of connectors. Each one has a service account, so it can connect to the actual application that it's trying to provision into or deprovision from. And what we're trying to accomplish here is to be able to use integration. Today we're going to look at an example that's leveraging REST web services to get the password from the password safe. And we're going to use RSA governance and lifecycle as the identity management platform. We're going to use BeyondTrust. BeyondTrust is going to be taking care of my password safe. And behind the scene, BeyondTrust would be able to rotate the passwords in the target applications, whether it's SAP, Active Directory, or even some cloud applications. So we're not going to look at that aspect today. We're going to focus on this aspect. We're going to use SAP as an example because it's actually one of the most complex application to integrate with. And we're going to leverage a connector that I made available last year, which is published on the RSA Link customer and partner portal. This one here that I published was configured initially with CyberArk, but what I did is I ported this open source SAP connector to BeyondTrust. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So I have my BeyondTrust system here, and I have a few accounts in there. So I created some accounts. For example, there's one ECC admin, and if I look at the properties for this account, this is an account that's being managed in the BeyondTrust password safe, and I have a password here that I actually created manually, but I could also rotate that password using the policies in BeyondTrust, and I made this password available for API access because that's what I'm planning to do, to use my SAP connector to be able to call the BeyondTrust API and retrieve that password each and every time I need to connect to SAP. And I'm just going to close this, and I can also track the usage of my account using reporting capabilities and auditing capabilities in BeyondTrust. I'm also assigning the IP address of my RSA server, so it can actually be allowed to connect and retrieve the password. And I can enable also client certificate. I can enable different types of factors here to make the handshake between RSA and BeyondTrust as secure as required. And I can look at my audit log here, and I can see every time the password is being retrieved. The account I'm using an account in BeyondTrust that's called BT User 101. That's the service account I am using to connect into BeyondTrust to retrieve the password for the actual SAP service account, which is ECC admin. So let's move to the RSA console. So this is my RSA console here, and I'm actually looking at a version that was just released, 7.0.2. And if I look at some new capabilities in 7.0.2, I can actually create different types of connectors that now officially support the vault for storing their password. So I published also on the RSA Link portal a few connectors last year, SAP, Oracle, Active Directory, ServiceNow, that were allowing the support for the CyberArk Vault. But now with version 7.0.2 that was released in March of 2017, this support is included with some of the out-of-the-box connectors. So for example here, this one, I can see the option here. Either the password is static, which means I use the password field here to store my password in the RSA database, or I toggle here to use the password vault. Right now, no password vault has been configured, and the configuration of a password vault can actually be done here with a new tab that has been added under the system. So I can go in here and I can create a new password vault here. I can use multiple password vaults for the same RSA instance. So I can have connectors fetching their passwords from different password vaults. And it's using web services, as you can see. And if I want to get some more information, I can always click on the little help logo here in the upper right corner. And it's going to tell me how to configure the support for the vault. It's listing also connectors that are already supporting the vault out of the box. And as I mentioned, I added a few more that are open source on the RSA Link portal. And eventually, I hope that we'll see, them also supported out of the box here with the official product. So now let's take a look at the actual open source connector that I just created for BeyondTrust. So this is a port of my previous connector that I published last year. And if I look at the properties for this connector, I can see that it's not asking for a password. Instead, it is asking for, of course, the SAP information to make the connection with my SAP system, but it's not asking for a password. It's asking instead for the BeyondTrust information, the server name, the API key, which is something that's generated in BeyondTrust to allow the connectivity to the API, so it's like a certificate. And I can also step up the security and add another certificate to the connection on top of the API key and the IP filter. And this is the safe account I'm using, BT User 101. And for this connector, I'm going to be using an account called ECC admin for a specific system that is managed by BeyondTrust, which is called SAP ECC here. And I can also provide a reason here that's going to show up in the logs on the BeyondTrust side to explain, why the password was fetched by BT User 101. So this is the reason here. And This is, again, using the Java code-based AFX connector from RSA, which is like an SDK. So it comes with a specific library that allows you to create your own connectors. I need also to import the SAP specific libraries, and this is my actual open source connector here, my SAP BT1. So let's actually go through a quick demonstration here. We're just going to do the unit testing on this connector. So I'm just going to go to test capabilities, and I'm going to test a few things here. So I'm going to test the create account first. So I'm just going to change the default value here to create a new account. So just going to change this number here with 7. And since this is an open source connector here, I could add as many attributes as I want. So the number of attributes and which ones I selected is arbitrary. So I'm just going to run this test now. So now behind the scene, what's happening is the connector is retrieving the password from the BeyondTrust password safe. And once it has the password, it makes the connection to SAP and it creates the account. So let's take a look at my SAP system here to check if the user was actually created. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to log in with this new account that I just created. So it's BT, or actually test. Just going to change a number here. And I have an initial password that I set for user. It's already expired, and I'm going to select English as the language. And if I try to log in, it's working, but it's telling me that my password is expired, so I need to select a new password, which I will do. And now I have a working account that can connect to SAP with limited privileges. So I'm going to log out, actually. And now we're going to test the other capabilities. So I'm going to go back to my RSA system. And now what I want to do is add the account to a group. So I'm going to use the default value of a demo. And I'm going to run that. So again, every time the connector needs to connect to SAP first, it has to turn around and fetch the password from the password safe. So this looks like a success. Let's try a few more capabilities, and then we'll go take a look at the result. So I've configured a few capabilities. Lock and lock account are also available, but for now, let's add the account to an application role, which is linked to a profile in SAP. Application role is how we call them in RSA, but in SAP, we're looking at a profile. So this looks like it worked. And one last thing we're going to do, we're going to add a role to the account. So I have a role in SAP here that I'm going to be adding to the account. So that worked, and I think I may have not changed the default one here, so let's make sure I add it to 107 and not 105. So let's run that capability one more time for the employee profile. So this one looks like it completed successfully as well. So now let's take one last look at SAP, but now I'm going to connect as a user with permissions to look up the entitlements for my newly created user. So I'm going to use my admin account. And I'm going to look at my user display transaction here, SU01D. And I'm going to take a look at number 7. So I can see that my user was created with the attributes, department, email, first and last name. But I can also see that my user has the role, iPro author, that I selected in my unit testing. The user also will have the employee profile. And we should also see the demo group. So we've been able to provision 3 different types of entitlements for the user. So that basically concludes the demonstration here. So just to recapitulate, we were able to create a new SAP Connector using my open source SAP Connector example. We've been able to configure that SAP Connector to be able to retrieve its password from the BeyondTrust password safe every time it needed to connect to SAP. And we made a few calls, and we can actually take a look at the activity here. So if I just refresh my screen, I should be able to see a few calls here that have been performed against my BeyondTrust password safe. So thank you for watching this video, and have a good day.